This video isn't about how to handle leftists in an argument. You're not going to be able to handle leftists in an argument because they are irrational people. Okay, so forget about trying to defeat them and to prove your point with a leftist. That's not the issue. The issue of this video is how to handle them in your everyday life, how to manage these people in your everyday life, in your business, in your social life, your romantic life, classes, bosses, whatever. It's how you handle these leftists who are hysterical, they're crazy, and they can hurt you badly. The TLDW of this video is very simple. You handle leftists by avoiding them, and if you cannot avoid them, then you try to minimize your interaction with them and at the same time try to dodge and weave about politics, okay? Now, the way you handle leftists is imagine you were Jewish and you were dealing with an anti-Semite. I'm not talking about, slightly anti-Semitic. I'm talking a full-on Nazi, anti-Semite bigot. How would you handle such a person if you were Jewish? Well, you'd avoid them. And if you couldn't avoid them, you'd try to smile and bob and weave and try to get as far away from them as possible, as quickly as possible, right? Same exact thing. Exactly the same. Leftists are the bigoted anti-Semites of the modern world. And to not learn how to handle them and to not identify them quickly and to not figure out strategies for dealing with them, maximizing your interaction with them, and then going away, well, it would be foolish, all right? I'm all about pragmatism insofar as doing these videos. I'm all about, what is the pragmatic approach to solving a problem? Insofar as this problem is concerned, avoid them, and if it's impossible to avoid them, minimize the interaction. That's the TLDW. Now, insofar as, how did this happen? Well, it's a little history is needed. When I was growing up, leftists were simply people who espoused a different set of policy options to making a better society. When I was growing up in the 70s, I remember my parents having conversations with people of different political stripes, including leftists, and they would listen. They would listen to your points of view, and they would disagree, and they would give their rational reasons. And there was a common element, or let me phrase it, a common goal. And the common goal was to make a better society for everybody, left, right, and center. Leftists used to be like this, but sort of like in the 90s, in the early 90s, I happened to see it, to tell you the truth. I saw it, in college, that leftists started to feel that their political affiliation was not just simply an issue of better policies that would improve the lives of everybody in our democracy. No. They started thinking that leftism was a moral imperative. You see, back in the 70s and even before in the 60s and 50s and 40s, and 30s, people who were left tended to be more educated, and so there was an issue of a class divide. And leftists have always sort of looked down on people who were not of their same political affiliation, right? But it was in the 90s that they started taking on their political affiliation as some sort of morality. They started confusing politics with morality, policy with with some sort of religious doctrine or something like that. That's what's happened. See? So before, talking in the 70s and 60s, where before a leftist would be sort of looked down on you if you weren't of their same politics, in the 90s they started looking at you as an immoral person, as somebody who was bad and eventually evil. Today, if you are not an SJW, if you are not a leftist, you're a bad person, and a bad person who has to be, attacked, who has to be hurt. There's the reason that the expression "you shouldn't punch a Nazi" came into existence. The leftists truly believe that somebody who does not believe as they believe is an evil person and who should be stamped out and squashed out. And that's the truth. That's the reality of the situation. And to pretend otherwise, you're just blinding yourself to what is going on today. So you have to handle these people. Now, let's go through the different ways that you handle, the different opportunities in which you are going to be dealing with such people. Now, the easiest is your personal life, your friendships and your romantic partnerships. The easiest thing to do in that case, in your personal life, is just to avoid all leftists. The more to the left, the more SJW they are, the more you want to avoid them. As simple as that, okay? Because they will look at you as a bad person, and in best case scenario, they'll try to convert you. And they'll try to convert you like on moral grounds. Sort of like, wouldn't it be better? Wouldn't you be a better person if you believed as I believe, right? That's the best case scenario. Worst case scenario, they'll just be annoying shitheads, okay? One time I went on a date with this girl, and attractive girl. I took her to a very expensive place, very posh. I mean, really upscale, 5-star all the way. I took her for drinks there. And we started talking, and eventually it rolled around to politics. And she came out as a full-on SJW, social justice warrior, all into social justice and all the rest of it. Now, notice the contradiction here. We were at a 5-star location, extraordinarily posh. Everybody there was dressed to the nines. Everybody obviously had a lot of money. And she wasn't talking about, we have to help the poor people, we shouldn't be here. No. She was happy to be there. She was, excited to be there. She was excited that I was taking her to such a posh and expensive place. But she started, with her politics, and her politics had nothing to do with helping poor people. It was just moral signaling. Very quickly, we realized we were on the opposite side of the political spectrum, and she started insulting me in the most grotesque language imaginable, Now, when I'm in a public place, especially in a nice place, I'm going to behave myself, I'm going to treat people nicely. I'm not going to use foul language or anything of the sort. And this girl, she started using the most atrocious language, qualifying me in the most atrocious terms, that I was just a scumbag and a Nazi and all kinds of stuff, Really, right then and there, in front of everybody. She didn't give a shit. Yeah, fucking crazy, but, well, there you go. So in your personal life, just avoid these people. And you won't have to make much of an effort, because if in your personal life you start spouting a little bit of politics and it comes out that you are not a leftist, you're not an SJW, they'll rapidly avoid you, okay? But if they know if in your personal life you meet such a person and they identify you as not being a leftist, notice, not being a leftist, because it's not that you're far right or even moderate right, it doesn't matter, it's that you're not a leftist, therefore evil, okay? If they identify you as such a person, see, they're going to badmouth you to your entire social circle. They'll say all kinds of nasty things. They will lie about you. Oh yeah. They will lie and say things that are objectively not true about you in an effort to disqualify you socially. Yeah, absolutely. So you won't have to worry about these leftists in your private life, in your social life. But you do have to take care that they don't say shit about you to your other friends. And, just lie about you in an effort to make you look as bad as possible, to make you look evil. Because one of the important things about these people is that they do not believe in objective truth. So they are more than willing to lie about you and say the most despicable lies about you because, well, you're a Nazi. You're not a leftist. You're not a good SJW. See? So be careful, even in your private life, even if these people seem completely detached from your business or your place of employment, or maybe you're going to college and your professors or what have you. You be very careful with these people, because if they see the opportunity to hurt you, they will take that opportunity to hurt you. Okay? Okay. Now, insofar as your business is concerned, suppose you have a business and you have some client or some rep who buys your product and they're SJW, just avoid the topic. And whenever they say anything political, you just like nod along. You just nod along and like, oh yeah, you're absolutely right. Again, just as if you were Jewish and you were dealing with an anti-Semitic customer. You just nod along and just like, okay, you're totally right. Yeah. And don't get into an argument with them because it's going to hurt your business, number one. And they are going to tell other potential customers about you and what an evil Nazi you are. And in fear, because who knows, this person who's bad-mouthing you, who knows what position they hold in these other people's lives, in fear, they will start to avoid you as well. Because remember, see, these leftists, since their point of view, their political ideology is a moral imperative, it's a morality for them. See, their morality, their good morality, will mean that you are bad. And nobody wants to be associated with somebody who's called evil, right? And so other people will avoid you if it's in so far as business is concerned, okay? So be careful with a client or somebody or a customer or somebody who's a buyer for some big client. You got to be very careful. If you are in an environment, in a corporate environment, you have a job and your boss or your peers or even your subordinates are leftists or SJW, well, if you're in a big corporation, try to get away from these people. Somehow change positions, move away, okay? Now, if it's impossible, for whatever reason, perfectly reasonable, then you just keep your fucking mouth shut. Your mouth shut and your head down. And your spirits up and your CV up to date, okay? Because these people, they will dig into your politics to try to find out who you are. Okay, if you're working with such people and you're with them, 8 hours, 10 hours a day, right? It's going to be quite natural that they'll start to ask you about your politics, and you'll be able to avoid the topic for quite a while. You'd be surprised how long you can avoid the topic. And you can say that, oh, I'm not politically minded, and the election, shit, I haven't voted ever. I mean, you could be the most politically aware person on the face of the earth, but what you have to say is that, you elections, politics, what the fuck is that? That kind of situation, that kind of approach to these people, okay? If it's your boss, never let it be known what your politics are. Or that you disagree. It doesn't even matter. Like I said before, it doesn't matter if you're, hardcore right or just moderate right or even center left. For these insane people, the very fact that you are not a leftist means that you are evil, okay? Never forget that. So if it's a boss, you just smile and nod and like, oh yeah, you're totally right. I mean, and frankly, if it gets to the point it's a boss and they're just really pushing, you're gonna have to lie. You're just going to have to suck it up and lie and say that, oh yeah, they're totally right. And these, Trump's a fucking Nazi, bigot, orange hair, bad man. You're just going to have to lie because, frankly, what do you prefer? Having your principles and being unemployed, or having to tell a little lie to some asshole and stay employed and feeding your family? You see what I'm saying? Now, if it's a peer, especially a competitor, you shut the fuck up because they're going to use it against you. Fucking A, they will. They're going to use it to, push you aside. It's a dog-eat-dog world in corporate land, right? So what do you think? A peer of yours who is essentially a competitor, what do you think he's going to do? He's going to try to use the fact that you're not a good leftist to, elbow you aside and get the job that you deserved, right? And they do it. They do it all the time. Now, insofar as underlings, and this is key. A lot of people think that, if you're a boss over somebody and he's an SJW, you got it made, you don't have to worry about it. See, an underling can hurt you in all kinds of ways, in ways that are unimaginable, From just a work slowdown, and all of a sudden, the things that you're responsible for don't get turned in time, and the blame falls on you, to, actively sabotaging your division or whatever post you have or whatever, and they'll do it. That's the crazy part, okay? And you're listening to me and you're saying, oh, they're not like that. They are! That's the crazy part. Because from their point of view, from the point of view of leftists, SJWs, these sorts of people, from their point of view, anybody who does not believe as they do is evil. You think about it. Think about the insanity there, okay? As to how this came about, that's another conversation, a long conversation, right? But you have to understand their mentality, see? If you have an underling who is a hardcore leftist SJW, they will try to undercut you, undermine you, because from their point of view, they are resisting your evil. That the fact that you do not agree with their politics means that you are evil, and therefore they are morally justified in fucking you over. Do you want that? Do you want to be fucked over by an underling? Yes, no, maybe? Come on, okay? If you have an underling that you identify as an SJW or a leftist, you gotta fire that fucker. Fire them. Don't hesitate. Just it doesn't matter why. Just find something, some excuse, whatever is necessary to get rid of them. You want to get rid of them as quickly as possible. You do not want such people under you, because in time they will hurt you. They will hurt you badly and on purpose, and they will feel glad to hurt you. Okay? So you get rid of them. The second you have the chance to get rid of them. Because sometimes, you know, you're in a corporate job, for instance, and you have an underling that is sort of like put in there, and you can't really get rid of them because for whatever reasons, right? You got to find a way. You've got to find any little thing that they fucked up, any little problem that they didn't do, whatever, and say that's the reason that this fucker has to get fired, or at least transferred to another division, or just away from you, okay? If you don't get rid of them, they will wind up getting rid of you, okay? Okay. Now, here's the crazy thing about all of these leftists and such. See, like a customer of yours, or a boss of yours, or an underling, right? They will try to hurt you even if it hurts them, even if it hurts their best interests. Which sounds crazy, which is objectively insane, but they will. It's irrational because they are irrational. They are irrational people who, for various very complicated reasons, have been indoctrinated into an ideology that is more like a religion. See, for leftists, for SJWs, the notion of white privilege is basically the same as original sin. And if you start to see that leftist ideology, the leftist ideology that was fomented in universities and that they have swallowed whole, you know, this ideology, if you think about it, has the architecture of a religion. White privilege is original sin. And everything flows from that. And therefore, doing things to hurt people who do not believe as you do is perfectly reasonable and acceptable. Indeed, it's not only reasonable and acceptable, it is a moral imperative, because from their point of view, you are evil. Now, of course, from your point of view, or from the point of view of anybody sane or rational, right? You have to think of SJWs as leftists as if you are Jewish and they are bigoted anti-Semites, violent, potentially violent, and certainly bigoted anti-Semites. Okay? That's how you handle them. If you think of it in those terms, you'll be fine. See? Jews have existed for 6,000 years, and they've handled a lot of anti-Semites over the years, right? Right. So there's no reason that you should not be able to handle SJWs and leftists and be able to survive them in your day-to-day. Because the fact of the matter is, their ideology is going to be with us for a long time before it's over, before it's finally expunged. And it's going to take a lot of effort and a lot of just, you know, because it's a virus of the mind, okay? It's a virus of the mind, and it's catching. It's catching. The kids are catching it in universities, and we're going to have at least a generation or two with this virus of the mind, this insanity. And so, you know, you can bitch and moan about it, or you can be pragmatic about it.